Hi, Phil. It's so
Hi,
nice to
Courtney.
see you.
It's nice to see you too.
You always makes me literally so shiny.
Well, you're definitely a shining presence for
Well,
sure.
I'll say because I get to be around you. I'll say
Well,
thank you for letting me shine. It's an
well,
interesting
y-
thought, right?
yeah,
Well, I was thinking because we do a breath before we start, and I always I have such a hard time expanding my belly.
right. Everybody does, and that's why I still focus on it because it feels counterintuitive. It really feels like the opposite of what you should be doing. But when you inhale, your diaphragm is lowering to push the air down. That's what your body wants to do. So when you inhale and expand your tummy, you're allowing the diaphragm to pull down further, to pull in more air. It's like a vacuum, it's sucking down the air. And when you get more of that air into your body, it can circulate further, which is really one of the most healthy things you can do for yourself throughout the day. Because if you're not allowing the diaphragm to fully lower, then you're breathing in a shallow way. And if you're breathing in a shallow way, you're more inclined to be anxious and nervous and off center. Breathing deeply, consistently calms your parasympathetic system. It just you're oxygenating you're oxygenating your lungs, which oxygenates your blood, which oxygenates your brain. So everything works much more harmoniously once you're taking in air, and you can help that along just by a simple change of the tummy as you breathe.
So I think it's so funny because everything you just said is so perfect for Uranus and Gemini, which we're just in right now, and just how we could feel so anxious and nervous, and how important the breath is, and then it's connected to the mind. So I really love this, but maybe you could just bring us through the breath because there is something about how even just pulling us through to help us remember to expand the belly because it is so counterintuitive.
Hmm.
Isn't it amazing what's
So,
good for us is actually not what we want to do? It's like, right? It makes me think of that Michael Luden quote. The bottle's easy, going to the meeting's hard. So
right.
it's easy to shallow breathe. It's not so easy to take a deeper breath in, but that's what's good for us. So good reminder, but maybe you could just help us one more time.
Sure. So you can sit up straight, you know, your spine is nice and tall, and you want, the neck to feel open, shoulders relaxed. This is another thing that we carry with us, including me. You, the tension resides in your shoulders, and you might find yourself like this. If you spend a lot of time at work at the computer and having a busy day, you get more and more tense through your shoulders. So you want to
Or
just
literally,
let,
I say the weight, a lot of people have the weight of the world on their shoulders. So
that's right. So just let them drop. Let gravity do its job and just let them drop. And when you do drop them, you automatically get more space around your neck, which just improves the lungs' ability to accept more oxygen. So when you breathe in, for example, you can breathe in through your nose, and as you do, expand the tummy, expand it as much as you can. And you'll probably feel your rib cage lift because consider what's going on in your tummy, like a balloon. You're filling it up so everything gets larger, and you want that balloon to fill as much as possible. So just let this tummy go. Just let it go and let it expand. And then you're drinking life into your lungs when you do that. and then it's circulating through your system, and your body needs this oxygen to do its work. So you want to help it along as much as possible, and then you just inhale. But it actually is, once you focus on it and get into the rhythm, it does feel like it's a natural way to breathe. But we all want to look trim and feel trim, so we have a tendency to not let the tummy expand when we breathe. So I
Are
think we
you,
all
I know you release it through your nose, but are you breathing in from your nose and your mouth?
you can breathe in through your nose. You
Okay.
can breathe in either way you want, as long as you're expanding your tummy. But I think it's breathing through your nose is a great way to change your behavior as far as your breathing goes.
Do you ever like
Because
put your head back after like when you let out? Do you ever do that? Because
I don't, but you can do that. I just find that it's easier to get the breath out with my head a little bit, my chin a little bit tucked in. Again, it just gives the neck and the lungs a more open channel. You're not creating a kink anywhere, you
yeah,
know.
I just feel so, I'll say so airy, so much
Yeah,
lighter. It is interesting though how hard it is for us to remember to breathe. And I think important for us to remember to breathe right now.
right. And if you do pursue this, be careful because you can start to get very dizzy because your body is taking in more oxygen than it might normally. So just be careful. So after a few times, you're doing the right thing. Your body is accepting all this great new oxygen. So, and if you're feeling dizzy, that's a good thing, but just be careful, just to stay conscious and aware.
I think it's so interesting because I was just telling a friend, my father had well, I've had vertigo and then my father had vertigo. And I was looking up vertigo, and do you know it's all connected to Mercury? And he was having a Mercury transit. And I just think about even dizzy, about how our mind is
Hmm.
so many thoughts go through our mind, and that is a symbolism for vertigo. But it is
Hmm.
interesting how even our health is connected to the planets and what's happening in our own charts. And there's
Definitely.
messages in there, but I
Yeah.
really
And you,
appreciate the breath. I appreciate the breath, and I I feel like I should have you in my pocket, just reminding me to fill out my stomach, which is very
hmm
cancer, which is a word for cancer. And so we're in cancer season.
hmm
Seems very loving
and we
to
had a big, right. We had a big movement in the sky today with Uranus ingressing into Gemini. This is first day of what, a 7-year transit?
Yeah, what's interesting is how important it really is that do you see the screen now?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, just how important it is to learn to breathe. I mean, it's we can't control anything. And so how loving, I think I love astrology in the sense where if there's, are we all just getting the messages anyway, and then we can prove it with astrology? Because why do I mean, we did not plan to talk about the breath. It's just that we took a breath before, and I did not do a great job with my breath personally. And I thought, well, if I didn't do a great job with my breath, I'm sure other people too um, might not be getting their breath right, and how loving it would be for ourselves, right? To get our breath right. And what's interesting is sextiling that strong Aries. So it'll bring us to our present moment. It's
Hmm.
very loving. It's very loving to ourselves. So it's Monday. Uranus is now in Gemini. I think it's very exciting. Our we could use it to our benefit.
How you're feeling hopeful and optimistic about it because you'll talk to some astrologers and they'll also be positive, but they'll also talk about things to watch out for. And that's entirely fair. But because your Uranus is the planet of shock and surprise and out of the blue changes, I think that anything that we can discuss about it can be helpful. But because of the nature of that planet, it really could come out of left field, could drop from the sky, it could be a complete hairpin turn.
Yeah, and
Things
it
that,
could be for the better. This is what I think. Like a lot of people that have big Uranus things, it could be for the better. And so maybe it's shocking and maybe it seems very scary, but when you look back, it tends to be for the better, right?
Mhm.
I think it's so interesting that you asked me about, okay, what other astrologers say. And I have heard, I actually like to almost turn something on and I turned it off. And it was about how many wars are, I don't even want to go there because I'll say to you, how is that helpful to us? How is that helpful? Are we replaying history because we keep on saying that? And are we creating that with our words? And do our words really matter? And if we're present, let's say if we are present, right? And we have this situation, anything that goes bad, right? But we are actually present in it, we'll deal with it. I mean, we'll figure out how to deal with whatever shows up. But what's the point of so Stephen Forrest, who I study with and who I love, he says he has a really hard time with predictive astrology because it actually undermines astrologers. Because, for instance, I mean, you look at the election and pretty much every astrologer had their opinion of what was going to happen, and that's not what happened. And then so it's so easy to then dismiss astrology and say, well, it's all hokey pokey. And I'll say that a lot of times we see astrologers, I hate to say it, have it from their perspective of what through just like everybody else through the eyes,
Mhm.
their eyes. And I don't know. I think what you're right is that we don't know what's possible, and none of us do. And
Yeah, and using things that happened in the past regarding Uranus to try to figure out what's going to happen next is a complete waste of time. Again, because of all the planets, we're talking about Uranus, which is just shock and surprise by its nature. So we're not we're not going to be able to anticipate, in with any clarity what will happen, but we can be open to what the archetypal energy is. That is for sure. That's for sure.
well, and I like that. But and what's interesting is that I'm learning too. I'm always learning. That's my Gemini. I think we're always learning. Gemini energy, right? I'm not a Gemini, but I have lots of Gemini energy, is the Pluto. So this is for everyone that's born right now, right? Pluto, the planet of transformation, of change, is sextiling Neptune. And in everybody's chart, it has that. So this is also new. We've never experienced this. This is radically different. Pluto in Aquarius, right? The transformation, the ability to change, to expect the unexpected, and this energy of Neptune, which is from God, spirituality, and yeah, and of course it could be war, right? I mean, you heard that when Neptune went into Aries, everyone's like, "There's going to be a big war," and I'll say, isn't there always a war?
Right.
There's money in war, so it seems like there's a lot of wars in our world, in our society.
Mhm. But Neptune could bring about something at a much more at a higher level too. Like it could have to do with, more spiritual things, more about belief systems, and that in itself I think is positive.
Wait, do you know this quote? Because it makes me think about, okay. So do you know this? Did you ever read The Meaning of Life? Oh, the Man's Search for Meaning?
No, that's Frankel, right? Is it
Oh yeah.
is it
Okay.
Theodore Frankel?
Wait, I have to send it to you, Phil. Oh my
I
God.
think I think I have it. So
Okay.
let me
Don't
check.
worry.
I
I won't
I
send it.
know him and I know the book, but again, it's in my stacks. So
So I don't worry, I won't send it to you, but
Mm.
it's a quote and it says, we who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts, comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in numbers, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one way. I mean, how better can you explain Gemini, Uranus, Neptune in Aries, and Pluto in Aquarius? You get to choose with
Yeah,
all
it's
the
powerful.
sextiles. You get to choose. He literally was in a concentration camp. He lost his
Mhm.
father. His father died right in front of him, right? I'm pretty sure. And and he decided to not feel caged. And that
Right.
was a war. I mean, you're talking about it was real and it was a war and it was one of the worst wars in our lifetimes, right?
Hmm.
And so I don't know. I don't know how it's helpful to talk about it. Like, what is it? Are we actually supporting the world to prove we're right? If there is wars, and then we get to say, oh, we're right, but is that what you want? I don't know. I think that's what's so interesting about the Sag moon
Hmm.
is like, what do you actually want to happen?
Hmm.
And then is it your responsibility? I'm not saying to forget about history because we need to remember history, but how can we do it better? But I guess every astrologer is different. And that's just not the astrology I think is helpful.
I agree.
And maybe I'm
I
putting my
mean,
head in the sand, but again, what am I going to do? Get ready for a war? I mean, okay, so what can
right,
I was thinking about this. Okay, so let's say there's going to be a war. Well, what can I actually do about that? Is there anything I could do?
right. Well,
And if there's not,
again, yeah. So even with if you're not using astrology to be, highly predictive, right? You can still use the planets to prepare for what might be. And this is a perfect example, right? Uranus is in Gemini now, so we know what kind of energy shift that means. So we are empowered by that extra knowledge that people who don't believe in astrology, who don't know astrology, do not have. So that when these shocks and surprises, when they come, they will be shocks and surprises, but we will have prepared ourselves for them, right? So we'll know that, okay, this was shock and surprise, but we knew by the planetary energies that something like this was going to happen. Whereas people who don't know anything about it would be so much more shocked and surprised and more impacted, psychologically impacted. Like it might come to them, it's like an anvil hitting them, you know? Whereas if we have that understanding of, okay, we have to let this be because, or not, but at least when it does come, we would have had, we would have had that extra information of knowing that something like that was on its way.
yeah, and I think that's why we do this podcast, right? Or this YouTube is that maybe we could help people who maybe aren't into astrology to
Hmm.
see that, right? What can you do? And it's interesting because I think last week we were talking, I was saying, I actually said but before we got on the call, I knew Friday would be, was it Friday? Yeah, that it would be something bad happens, right? And that I can't predict what it was, but I knew it would bring a lot of emotion and the feelings of fear would come up. And there was, I mean, we had a very big storm and a lot of people died, right? And it was very unexpected and beautiful souls left the earth, but nobody could have predicted it to look like that.
Right.
But we knew that there would be a lot of feelings around that. And I mean, talk about death and what it means to be alive
Hmm.
and how if you understand, and listen, I don't think you could ever prepare yourself for anything that horrible. but how do you take the emotion? Well, first of all, how do you see it as, I don't know, how do you get through a day in life? The way that life throws stuff at you. God bless you. Oh yeah, and you had a
Thanks.
cold, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I think it's interesting because that's not what I would ever predicted, and I wouldn't want to predict that. That's what I'll say.
Right.
I never in my life, I'm going to move the chart to Tuesday, but I would now, can you see that or did it not work on
Yep.
your side? Did it?
It's still Monday.
Oh yeah, so it's so weird because I said sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It has a mind of its own, but here we go. So now, can you see Tuesday?
It'll be up in a second. Here we go. Yeah.
But you can't predict things, and we don't know how it's going to look. And I don't know if I want to predict. I actually, after I left the call last week, I was so upset that I had that weird, uncomfortable prediction of what could go wrong, and that it was going to be a day that there was a lot of heaviness. And I wouldn't wish that. I think that's part of life, right? We go through these horrible traumas, and then how do we survive and not, how do we survive it? How do we trust that there's something? How do you trust?
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know how you trust. I don't know how you continue to have faith, right? And I think that's such a good word for Tuesday. I'm going to put it for 12 noon. But yeah, how do you continue to have faith, Phil, when everything doesn't feel so beautiful?
Well, I'm not sure, but I do know that I would always prefer to be more informed than less informed, right? So more informed means what you share, right? You're sharing your feelings about Friday, and that's being that's for me feeling more informed, so that when these things do happen, they're still shocking and tragic and heartbreaking.
So maybe you
But
give yourself grace to know that you're human and how important it is to actually feel.
mhm, but it still feels like there's larger things, energies at play, and we exist within those larger energies.
And we do. And I think that's what we forget. We forget that there's something so much bigger than us that we can't explain and that I don't know if we're supposed to explain, right?
Right. It will, we can still say, well, this all remains a mystery, but we can also say, I know what the weather is like, you know, I know what the planetary weather looks like, even though the, it's all very mysterious when you think about the entirety of our existence. But if you can use planetary charts to get more information about where we stand within these energies, like I said, I would much rather be informed this way than not informed.
Yeah, and use it as a tool. And I think that's exactly okay. It's Mars's day on Tuesday, and I think what you said is so interesting. Information, like how can you use the information to your benefit? And you could think about Mars and Virgo and the higher side. Now, the habit would be to blame, right? Like, who am I going to blame? Who am I going to make wrong? Like, what will I find fault with? Or how can I use whatever's happening right now in my life? And what can I do to improve it, make it better, have faith, pray a little, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Pisces, not in a religious way, but in a what do I actually want? And a lot of times as a human, I know what I want by knowing what I don't want. And
Mhm.
I think it's very interesting what you said of information. And we're living in a time where so much information is coming our way. And I think that's also Uranus and Gemini. what are you going to believe with the information? And how do you decipher things?
Mhm. And there's so many things now generated by AI. I can see it now on social media, and I see it everywhere. It's really interesting
Yeah, what's
to
real
see
and what's
what's
not real?
real.
Yeah, and what's
I
real and what's not real. And you better make sure. So, like, do you know someone stole my identity on Facebook
yes.
and people believed it was me and they believed it and it looked like me. It was my little picture. Then AI generated something. It did not look like me. But I will tell you, a lot of people believed it was me, even the picture that wasn't me. And it was hard for me. It was a hard. So I'll say to you, how do we know someone's real? How do we know
I think
someone's real?
a lot more of these things will happen now.
Yeah, I think
I
it's scary. It's a little scary, except
yeah.
for that doesn't help us. So what can we do to improve where we are? I'll say, I don't
Mhm.
know. How do you even know what's real and what's not real? I'll say to you,
Mhm.
I, that I don't know anymore. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't have an answer
Well,
for you. I guess people that you trust, but like, who do you even trust? I think that's an interesting question.
yeah. But again, I think I think we're lucky because we follow astrology that there's a we have more information naturally, but I think that just makes us stronger.
I do
You
think
know,
it, I mean, it's changed my life. It's made my life so much better. What's interesting about Tuesday, which I will say that I know because I work and I use the moon, is that now we're on Wednesday. I don't know if you see it, but Tuesday
Mhm.
actually, it's a void moon all day. So it's not a day where where things are going to get done easily. So I don't know. It's almost like we passed over Tuesday and now we went to Wednesday, but that's kind of
Mhm.
like Tuesday. If you can, I don't know, be creative. These long void days are very
Mhm.
hard to get things done. My father
Mhm.
tried to get his car fixed, did not
Mhm.
work so well last week because it was a void moon. I was like, nothing's going to come today, but he didn't really believe me. But Wednesday is
Right,
Mercury's day. Oh, yeah. Wait, what?
but doesn't that make you feel stronger and more informed when you know that okay, it's a void of course moon, maybe I shouldn't do anything today. And then you can allow yourself not to do anything today without feeling guilty, right? Because
Or
you
judgmental.
or judgmental because you know of the conditions planetarily that would be not working in your favor if you were to attempt something like that. So what if you didn't know these things and your dad had trouble with his car, wouldn't you be just more frustrated and angry and worried and just getting yourself, I know I would, I'd be getting myself worked up. Whereas if I had this information about the void of horse moon, I could just let it go because I had that extra
I don't
understanding.
get frustrated. You're right. Like, because I don't have any expectations. It's like, it's
Right,
perfect. Why do I?
right.
I think that's what I dislike so much about like the 4th of July or holidays. It's this idea of expectations of what you're supposed to do. And that's when you get disappointed, is if you
Mhm.
expect your car to be done and it's not done. Yeah, you're right. You're going to be frustrated and bothered and disturbed. And I stayed open-minded. I decided to not try to put my glasses on it. I didn't even tell him. I just said, whatever happens, it'll be fine. You could have my car. Really what matters, and you just need a car and you got a car. So, and you know what? Oh, and I was thinking about this. He said, well, do you feel trapped? And I'm like, that's like not one of my wounds, but so no. Isn't that
Mhm.
funny? He couldn't understand how I wouldn't feel trapped by not having a car, but he would, because that's his stuff.
Right, right.
Interesting. It's a full moon on it's good. We're getting towards a full moon. Well, it's the next day on Thursday, but we're moving towards it and the moon's in Capricorn. It's the tomorrow on Thursday. We're just jumping ahead all the day, but
Mhm.
today the moon is trine Mars on Wednesday. And so it's taking action, I would say taking action to improve your life in a way. And what do you need to see? I think when the full moons come, it's asking you to see. what you want and what you don't want. And Capricorn moon's, the lower side is heavy, it's depressed, but the higher side is I'm going to make an effort and I'm going to decide what mountain I'm going to climb, where I'm going to put my time, where I'm going to put my effort, where I'm going to put my thoughts.
A great time to set an intention. Like, just if you ever have trouble setting intentions, then doing so under this full moon will be a great assist, I think.
Yeah, what makes me think about intentions is so a lot of times people will say, well, I don't know what I want. And I really do mean you do know what you want by simply knowing what you don't want. And your feelings on Wednesday and on Thursday are trying to tell you something. They're trying to tell you, and look at this. It's actually really interesting as the sun moves forward the next couple of days. It's trining the South Node in Pisces. We're all meant to be asking for what you're right, setting an intention, asking for what we want from a higher place, not finding fault. I'll say to you, be very wary of where you're putting the blame on somebody else.
Good point.
It's I mean, Jupiter in Cancer is squaring this Saturn and Neptune, and the ruler of the moon is in Capricorn. So we could look at Saturn, Neptune's going back, and we'll say to you, it's really, it's the hero's journey right now. And if we're all on our own individual hero's journey, who's responsible for our own lives? There's no one responsible but ourselves. Except for if you're a kid. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say, if
Mhm.
you're a child, right? Your parents have to have rules. But what rules do you need? I think this is an interesting thing because rules, Capricorn, and nurturing are very good. I don't know where we got out that people should not have rules. We need rules. We need boundaries for ourselves. Like what's working. I think this, do you know, Phil, my kids are not, well, my kids were not allowed to have their phones in their rooms. And a lot of parents thought I was wrong. I'm like, well, I wouldn't give my kids drugs, right? So whatever,
Mhm.
everyone has to do what they have to do. But I'll say to you, I don't have my phone next to my bed.
Mhm.
Grown up. There's no, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I can't just go to my phone.
Mhm.
That would be a rule or a boundary that could be helpful to people. Just saying. Just gonna throw it out there.
Rules are incredibly helpful. They could be, if you make a rule for your, especially if you want to make a rule for yourself. I made this rule for myself where I just wouldn't go to fast food places anymore because I had so many, I've gotten so ill from going to these places that I just decided I'm just gonna, it's not even an option for me now. And it just simplifies everything for me. There's so much less confusion about all of that. It's just because I have this rule. I just I just drive past these places. I don't consider whether I'll just buy one thing from the menu or it, it doesn't even come to mind because my rule is I don't go there anymore. So that's just one example of how it just makes things so much easier for me. And I don't feel like I'm limited at all because by not doing that, I have more other options about where I choose to eat when I'm driving somewhere. There's plenty of
It makes
other
you think of
things
where
I
your
can do.
mind goes. Like if you're not even thinking about the fast food places,
Right.
those don't even draw your attention. There's not an
Exactly.
option. I think that's such a great way to see it because once I decide something or you decide something and then you put your boundaries up, y- you're not gonna, in a way, you don't even think, you don't waste your energy thinking about it.
Right. Exactly.
I love that. And I think okay. And I think goes back to my idea with Uranus and Gemini and the idea that it could bring all this other stuff. Where we have put our attention is really does matter. And if my
Oh,
attention
yes.
goes to the idea that maybe I could have a fast food once a week. Oh, wait, okay. I'll just tell you, my youngest daughter, she's like, I can have, she might kill me. I can have soda once a week. Well, I would just like to tell you, every day it seemed like that was the once a week. Do you ever notice that? It was like, oh, I could have it
Yes.
once a
No,
week. And I'm
sure.
like, I think that you just had it yesterday. You
Yeah.
tried it before. It's like the idea that you could still have it. It's a very, it is. Your mind kind of plays tricks on you.
I've done it so many times for different with different things.
Wait, so do
So
you
many
consider
times.
Chick-fil-A fast food? Do you not have Chick-fil-A?
It's not on my radar at all. None of those places. I'll go to a salad bar or I'll sit down someplace and have, some Thai food or something.
Oh,
Again,
I love Thai food.
it's yeah, again, by putting a rule about fast food, it opens up other opportunities that I didn't pursue because I always had the fast food option open, you know? So by just eliminating it from my list of possibilities, just eliminating it, I'm I'm finding other ways to have a meal. And it's been great.
Well, I think what's interesting is how brilliant this conversation is in some ways because so we have a full moon, so we're going to see the truth on something, right? And feelings are going to come up about something that maybe is not good for us. And then what's interesting is that and then we have an opportunity. It's exactly trine. The full moon is exactly trine. So the sun will be sextiling the South Node. So, what habits aren't good for us? What can we change? What can we put structure and energy in? And then, how do we let go and let God? And that would be the interesting, that would be the healing moment. I mean, if you think about how brilliant AA is that in order to give something up, you have to like trust there's a higher power. And so you have to have faith and trust and structure and like meetings, right? They go to meetings and community, but we're really being asked to let go and let God and maybe change some stuff about our lives that aren't working. And the only way we know it is by feeling it. And I'm so
Mhm.
sorry because I know a lot of people are feeling a lot, right? You're feeling a lot, but I think the feelings are really helping us put boundaries and structures and maybe not giving so much of ourselves to everybody.
Yeah.
So I don't even just think about fast food, but imagine if you just always do everything for somebody and you're always just
Mhm.
giving and giving and giving and you don't like to give anymore so much. And oh, it's an interesting question. How do you put boundaries around that though? That's a little
Mhm.
harder.
Definitely harder. It's so hard, but there's a liberation in it. There's a liberation to having rules. Espe- And I'm talking about the rules that you create for yourself.
Yeah. And let's do like, wait, is there another word we could use besides rules? Because I think some rules are meant to be broken, but maybe it's hmm,
Again, these are
what's another rule?
intentions.
I think it's interesting to think about rules. Like what another word for rules. I have this book. It's a great book. Talks about like energy of Capricorn words.
Well, it's like setting an intention and staying with that intention, right?
Yep.
You're fixing in your mind what it is that's no longer working, and you're telling yourself, I'm putting that away now. And that this is it's interesting. So I'm so glad you mentioned AA, and it's the same issue. You know, if someone really sets their intention, it's so difficult to do. I'm putting that drink down or I'm putting that drug away. It's so very, very hard to set that intention and stay with it. I mean, I might not stay with my intention of fast food. I hope I do,
I hope
but
you too.
yeah.
But
But
I think you will. or you won't, but you don't have to worry about that.
Right. But if you do set your intention and you stay with it, it's again, it's liberating. You've overcome that confusion about, what choice will I make? You don't have to make any choice because you've already set the intention that it's not.
Well, I think that makes such a good idea for Uranus and Gemini even is if I made the choice and I'm very clear about the choice. Okay, you think about Uranus and you think about the not conforming to society's rules, right? And so having my mind go to what I want and what I don't want and being very clear on it, it feels as if there is liberation. But if I'm confused about what I want, and I think about resilience, I looked up words and responsibility. And it's an interesting idea because I think AA is completely channeled. It's it was a very interesting thing, right? How did somebody come up with this idea but one of the main things about it was you had to take responsibility for where you are. And I think that everybody is being asked because the lower side of Virgo is blaming anybody else for where you stand. And if we're being our, I always go back, there's a higher way and there's a lower way. And blame is not very helpful.
Mhm,
It's not very helpful. So if there's something, yeah, I just think it's yeah, if you blame it, so if you go to the fast food place, I'm using this as an example, and then you just blame the fast food place for being opened and being so delicious, and you eat it all, and you're like, and you feel bad. Yeah,
mhm,
honestly, the gift of it is, okay, I did this, and
mhm,
I don't know. Anyway, I just think it's a very important. I've said this from the moment the South Nodes went into.
mhm.
I just think we have to take responsibility for where we all stand and what we're talking about.
Right. I think you a terrible place to be is to always set the same intention and then break the intention, and set the same intention and break the intention. That's where that's where a lot of pain can come from. And Mars Virgo, that example that you gave about blaming others, great example of being stuck, being stuck in that pattern of, I set my intention, but I wavered, but I'm going to blame you, or I'm going to blame this, or I'm going to blame the fast food menu. I'm going to blame, then I'm going to blame them. Going to set my attention again, and then I'm going to waver and then blame them again. That's just not. That's not a good place to be.
Well, yeah, and I think then you get very critical of yourself,
Hmm.
right? And then you have such judgment of yourself. I think it's so
Hmm.
how easy our mind is very tricky and it does play these tricks on you. And I will say that it's hard to make changes
Hmm.
and maybe we're able to maybe we have to just be careful, decide what we're going to choose and then choose it and then not do what you said, just not even go there anymore. Just know that that's what you're going to do and choose it. And it is the harder choice. And my guess is that just like the breath when we first started the call and how hard it is, I find it interesting that it's all correlating. It always does.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
breath and pushing our stomach out is the harder way,
Hmm.
but it will be so much more beneficial to us. And so
Hmm.
maybe our higher self knows what could be so great for us. And that
Hmm.
lower voice that tells us to stop at the
Hmm.
fast food place. It's just a
Hmm.
great metaphor for everything. Or I would
Hmm.
say even watching the news, because it's like what I'm putting in my like a lot of habit of watching the news and like thinking I need information or more information, and I never feel good. And it's
Hmm.
not like I don't want to know what's going on,
Hmm.
but is it actually helping me? Probably
Hmm.
not. I mean,
Hmm.
probably if I need to know something, trust me, everyone will tell me.
Hmm.
You ever notice that? Uh,
Hmm.
everyone will tell me. But Jupiter is at 7 degrees and it's square. It's really It's like not really a square. I'm just looking to see if there's any other squares to it. But it's Jupiter's day. And so really, I think your feelings are telling you something. And I'll say to you, what don't you want anymore? What don't you want
Mhm.
anymore? And I'll say to you, then go to the positive and then do the hard work, climb the mountain of what you do want. And don't blame anyone anymore because
Mhm.
you're ready. You're ready to thrive and survive
Mhm.
and succeed. So Friday is Venus's day.
And you'll feel great when you do it. You'll, even though it's hard and it's scary and it sucks, it's really not fun, but you'll feel great. I promise you, you'll feel great when you do it.
Well, and what makes me think about what you're saying is it's so funny 'cause I actually usually set intentions for the new moon. But what I like about what you're saying about the full moon is so if I'm going to set an intention for what I'm going to create a rule, usually it's something I have to let go of, right? It's like a habit that
Hmm.
I have to let go of, which it's when the moon is just leaving, right? When it's waning, it's such a better time to let go of things. So I really appreciate the idea. I'm going to set an intention. I don't know what I'm going to get rid of or what habit I am going to, but I'm going to base it on my feelings.
Hmm. Right.
I'll know
Well,
on I'll text you on Thursday and let you know
right.
what it
Can
is.
be it can be a small thing too. It can just whatever makes you happy or brings you joy. So many things, so many possibilities.
Yeah, and so we have Venus.
Friday. Hmm.
Yeah, Friday. I'm going to switch the hours till 8 a.m. Something about let's see what it looks like. Friday, 8 a.m. Can you did it switch to okay, 8 a.m. So the
There
sun
it goes.
rising. Sun rising. Where's the okay? The moon's now still in Capricorn on Friday morning, and it will be going into Pisces. No, Aquarius. Aquarius.
Whereas,
Wow, that's gonna be fun. Wait, let's move it up. Wait, let's move it till let's say 12 p.m. This is very exciting. No, let's move it to 3 p.m. I think that's where we had it at before. I see why I did not like it. It's because it's hidden over there, and I don't like when it's hidden. See, I'm just going with the flow. Okay, 5 p.m. Friday. Oh, I think this is so exciting. So during the day, we're still in Capricorn. You're looking at the feelings coming up. And then on Friday later in the afternoon, look at that, Bill. Look at how
little
exciting
Pluto.
it's trining. Okay, Pluto and the moon in Aquarius, seeing things from a broader perspective, seeing things and not caring what anyone thinks, not what anyone thinks, because it's no one's business, right? It's like your own stuff and what you need. Sounds selfish, but I think it's meant to be. And it's trining this Uranus in Gemini.
Hmm.
It's helping. It wants to help you. It wants to help you free the chains. I just think of it like breaking the patterns and the chains. And now everybody wants to help you, or at least the sky wants to help you transform your thoughts and your thinking and love yourself.
Hmm.
Love yourself. Do you know Louise Hay? Do you know who she is?
Hmm. Hmm.
And just how
Yes.
the mirror work of you're kind of beautiful, you're kind of amazing. How about if you liked yourself and you, I think of Mercury too in Leo. How about if
Hmm.
you spoke to yourself the way you speak to other people?
Yeah. Great, great idea. Great concept for people to really internalize and remember, what would you, if you're having a problem, would you would you give yourself the same advice as you would give to a friend? If you were had a problem, if your friend had a problem, you would you would provide a very positive perspective on the problem and help them through it because you have that different perspective. But if you're internalizing that problem, you don't, you only have your own perspective, which is probably so subjective that you're not seeing it correctly.
You know,
And you can get hard on yourself about that, you know?
it's funny because I was writing this morning. I write a lot, and yeah, you're so hard on yourself, and you think there's something you have to fix or that you're not whole, and we're cruel to ourselves. I mean, we're really can be cruel, and like that critic, but it's not nice. And most of the times, I think, yeah, you would be much kinder to your friend. But what if you saw yourself as I keep on thinking about this, but now the sun's trining that south, that north node in Pisces. How about if you actually knew you were whole and that there was nothing innately wrong with you, or that you were beautiful or handsome or not?
Hmm. Yeah. Then you could really be like your own life coach, which would be, wouldn't that be great if everybody could just have this internal life coach who could give them that perspective?
Wait, you know what you could
But
do on this day, on Friday? You know, if you're having a hard time and you want to change a habit, you can ask AI, because I think of Aquarius and the moon. You can ask
hmm
AI, say, oh, I want to lose like 5 pounds, or I want to get rid of fast food. Can you give me an idea of how to do that for my highest good? So you can ask, maybe not yourself, but you could ask AI, but speak it about it in a positive way, like you can do it. And can you help me create a game plan for me to not go to fast food restaurants, or, maybe have my phone in another room and set me up for success.
that's perfect. Perfect. Perfect Aquarius, Uranus, Gemini vibration there, right? Because you're drawing on an artificial mind to
Yeah, but you're
reveal. Hmm?
Yeah, but and you're also setting it up, asking it very clearly. Saturday's
Hmm.
here, it's going to be opposite the Gemini, the what's it called, the Mercury. But you have to be very careful with how you speak to the AI and
Hmm.
ask for it to create a successful plan for you.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean,
Right.
I think it will,
Hmm.
but a detailed plan to support
Hmm.
you. But your words also matter with that.
Could you say successful, loving, and supportive plan? I wonder what it would say, how it would respond to that.
Oh yeah, I think it will. I mean, it's amazing. It actually is a really cool tool, and there's problems with everything, and there's
Hmm.
good, and it could make life a lot easier for people, and actually take you. I think what's interesting about the Aquarius energy, it could take you out of it. It's not personal,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Right.
You're not like, I always think of that Leo here, and it's opposite that moon today on Saturday, but it's later in the afternoon, but it's okay. However we look at this, it'll just be fine. But it's not, it's like, who's your audience? And if you don't like your audience and the audience is not appreciating you, maybe you should go to a different audience. And that's very much Leo energy. But the Aquarius doesn't really care what the person thinks. There,
Right.
I keep on thinking of like, did you know the Bezos story? Did I tell you this? And Lauren Sanchez, I looked up Lawrence. Do you know who Lauren Sanchez is? She's the one that married. And she also has the same nodal story as Taylor Swift, which is like a south node in Leo and a north node Aquarius. And so she's supposed to learn to not care what people think. but it's hard when people are saying such mean things about you. So it makes me think about my own mind or our own mind and that meanness. And I'll say it doesn't really matter. It's not, don't let that offend you. It's not personal.
All right.
So, it's interesting because Mercury is in Leo and we're seeing a lot of people having opinions about everybody else and not so kind.
All right.
I'm very grateful I'm not in the public domain because people are
Hmm.
cruel. Could you imagine what people actually have the nerve to say about people, Phil? It's mean.
Well, social media is the perfect vehicle for that. So you can get people getting on there and just venting with the most horrible things, but they're behind, the screen, so it's not direct face-to-face interaction, and you can get so much of it. And that's why I kind of, stay away from it because it can be
Yeah, I don't
it
really enjoy it myself.
yeah,
I don't
because
like, but
you
it
can
hurt
carry
me.
that around with you.
I saw that. Like I scroll things through things quickly and I'll read the headlines of stuff and I happened to look at that and I thought, wow, people are really mean. They're mean.
Yes.
And they were
Yep.
mean about, and it's so easy to be mean about a very public figure or someone very,
Hmm.
and I don't know. It's like maybe you're saying that about yourself. So you better
Hmm.
be very careful how you speak. But Saturn in Saturn's day, and Neptune is reversed. So Neptune's going to go back into Pisces. And so I think it's another opportunity as it moves back towards Pisces for us to really remember we're divine.
Hmm.
And I think do make the effort to listen to people like us who are talking in the way we're talking of hope and possibilities. You ever
Yeah, I think that dip back into Pisces is going to, I don't know. I just think of like spiritual warrior as opposed to just warrior. So if you're dipping back into Pisces with Neptune, you're going to find inner strength or like a core feelings that will help when Neptune goes back into Aries because you're working from that core feeling or core beliefs. So you're just not going on like an Aries adventure or rampage willy-nilly. You're operating from values and beliefs.
Yeah, and I like that just because then it will be going towards Saturn again, and it will allow you that Neptune energy is connected to the divine. And so if you know your why or your values and you understand things from a higher place, maybe your direction is different in that Aries
Mhm.
energy. But it's such a beautiful thing. It makes me think of after 9/11. I lived in New York. And the one beautiful thing is that everyone felt so connected. This horrible thing happened. And to me, it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever experienced because everyone was kind, everyone was
Mhm.
loving, everyone wanted
Mhm.
to help one another, and we didn't feel separate. And it was so fascinating to me because I'm like, well, that's who we are.
Mhm.
We're all I don't know. I think we're all connected and we all
Mhm.
can dance or swim together and see our oneness versus our separation. Okay. So on Sunday, we usually get this idea. I'll say to you it's Sunday, and we're going to say it's very interesting because it's squaring. It's actually very interesting just because I didn't even notice this, but this is Juno. Juno is in Scorpio.
Mhm.
Juno is like the planets, it's an asteroid, but it's all about relationships. And so
Mhm.
we can really open our hearts more in relationships, or is it squaring? No, it's trining. It's actually trying to help you, your feelings and sharing your feelings and talking about your feelings and asking for what you want in your relationships
Mhm.
and being willing to go deep with people.
Definitely, definitely deep feelings with Scorpio.
And then right now, so here, the moon, the sun is really in a trine. I think we could talk about that before we leave, but this trine to the north node. And so how important it is to listen to our feelings, but not let our feelings take over us.
Yeah, it's, it's your intuition that's trying to guide you. And it is guiding you. It's always guiding you, but it can do that in a much better way if you're open to listening. Because if you're not listening, it's it's going to set you back on the course. And that might be painful experience, but your intuition, if you're not, if you feel like you're not speaking your truth, or you're not acting your truth, or you're compromising yourself in ways that are upsetting you or distracting you, that's a signal that's saying you you need to get, you need to find your path again, so that you're, when you are speaking, behaving, that you it feels truthful.
Yeah, and how important, well, I think what's so interesting is that word intuition and with Cancer energy and how we don't use it enough, that gut reaction when you want to throw up, right? That is your intuition. It's trying, yeah, like that is trying to, and I think somewhere along the way we forgot. You ever notice that when we're younger, if we're not hungry anymore, we stop eating. And then at some point we lose the cutoff. We just keep eating. We don't listen to the intuition,
Hmm.
like, oh, there's a bell and it's ringing and it says I'm full. We just keep eating. And that we somewhere along the way, we don't listen.
Hmm.
And maybe
Oh.
we follow the rules of what other people say. Like, my parents did not say clear your plate, but
Mhm.
it's not always so good. That so some rules are meant to be broken, and you're not meant to clean
Hmm.
your plate because
Hmm.
that's not loving to yourself.
Hmm.
But I like that intuition and
Yeah,
taking.
I've been in situations where I've definitely felt like, I have to really compromise myself in order to, agree with everybody else about this one thing, or, be subservient to people or ideas that I didn't feel genuine about. And when you do that long enough and you keep staying on that path, you keep pushing through, it's going to, it'll wear you down. Or I'll say it wore me down. But I had to keep pushing up against these brick walls, I guess, to finally accept that, it just doesn't feel right to me. I can't rationalize this anymore. It just doesn't, I can't, I can't go with this anymore. And it's, so I disentangled from it, not in any way that was dramatic or anything. I did it, and it all worked out smoothly once I sent my intention and said, wait a second, this this doesn't, I've tried to make this feel right for me, but it just doesn't. So now, now that I've come to that realization, what do I do? But I had to come to that realization first, and it took a long time.
Yeah, and it makes me think again about the soul and Cancer. And the Cancer is the moon, right? And the moon's your soul. And I think at some point when you stop listening to your soul, I think everyone hurts. I don't think there's anybody that is going along with something that their gut knows is wrong, that it doesn't hurt you.
Hmm.
And I don't know what's right or wrong, right? But you do, your gut knows. You know in your soul it doesn't feel right that moment, and it's like the twinge, it doesn't feel right even if everybody else is doing it. And I do think at some point you lose yourself.
Hmm.
So well, thank you for, I guess, waking up. That's the perfect Gemini Aquarius word, is we're all waking up, and we're
Hmm.
waking up to see what we want and
Hmm.
what we're not willing to go along with anymore just because society's asking us to. And I think it's
Hmm.
around our words, our communication,
Hmm. And our thoughts, how we think.
and how we think.
Hmm.
So take lots of breaths.
Thank you, Courtney.
It's going to be a fun
I
week.
love this. Yes.
We're learning
It-
to surf together, and they,
yeah.
all of us.
We live, I mean, it's certainly exciting that Uranus is now in Gemini, that's for sure. And there will be excitement, guaranteed. So I hope we all enjoy it.
Yeah, life will not be boring. However,
Right.
however it goes about, it will not be boring.
Mhm.
So I will
All
see you
right.
next week, and I can't wait.